Hey guys, today I'm going to unbox two different nVidia cards and benchmark test them and see how they run. I'm going to be unboxing two nVidia GTX cards. The first one is the 1050 Ti and the second is the 1080, and it's not a Ti model. Unfortunately, locally, it's pretty hard to get any kind of decent video cards, as with so much mining going on, they're in demand. Actually, with the 1080, I kind of had to lie to the salesman and tell him that I was using it for video editing, which I will, and then after I'm using it for mining. So they had these listed as out of stock. Basically, the best card they had was the 1070. And let's bust these open and see what we got inside. So the 1050 comes well packaged. Comes with instructions and a tweaking program for overclocking, and I assume some drivers. The thing about this model here is it's the dual fan. It has 4 gigs RAM. And it's only motherboard power needed. Usually the Ti models do take less electricity and are therefore better for mining purposes. And honestly, the ones that only use motherboard power, they just save you electricity in the long run. They keep your system cooler normally, and overall just a better purchase, even if you're just doing gaming or video editing. Now, let's open the 1080, which is, locally it's a little over double the price, or well, it's roughly double the price of the 1050. And again, it's well packaged. They're not cheaping out on the packaging. Looks like I have to open the other side as well. So this model comes with 8 gigs of RAM, which is good if you're mining anything to do with Ethereum or Ethereum Classic. Now let's take a look. It reminds me of opening a bottle of Dom, in all honesty. So they come with a little power splitter in case you need it, which is nice. The other one didn't. Some kind of Velcro, not sure for what, I guess for wrapping up your wires. And again, it comes with the manual and a CD or DVD of drivers. Just going to take a sip. 2016 homemade. Grew the grapes myself. Again, really nicely packed. And I guess at that price it should be. And it looks like this thing must throw a lot of heat. It's got 2 heavy-duty heat sinks in there and 3 different fans. Well, there's only one thing left. Let's go try them out. My GPU mining rig that I'm adding on to. Now, normally you would just take the card, install it in your computer and use it. However, when you're mining, it's not really possible to fit all your cards right next to each other. So hence, you end up having to use what's called a riser. And prior, they used to look like this. A few years back, this was the most common one. However, now the most common style is actually a USB style, which you can normally get in a package like this. They sell them everywhere. If you can't find one locally, they sell them on eBay and Amazon, Newegg. This is the USB style, which is actually the kind I prefer. This is, in my opinion, the best. A couple years ago when I was using this style, I found I tended to get a lot of errors and things were locking up. I don't really know why. Maybe it was just the risers I had or my computer at the time. Now, one thing you need to make sure of whenever you're using a riser is that you do have an extra source of power, that it's not just drawing power from the board through the cables. That's how a lot of fires start. The other thing you need to be aware of is this is the ribbon style. This is the USB style. There is also a SATA style. Please don't use those. They do catch fire. Stick to the USB. If you're using an older card that's power efficient, like a 750 Ti, these are fine. But for anything newer, please use the USB style. What happens with the SATA is they draw power from both the board and usually the card draws its own power. And it causes, like if the power is slightly out of phase, it causes heat. And then they will catch fire. And of course, that's a no-no. So I'll hook these up. So now that I got the cards ready to be installed, got everything ready to go, power, secondary power, USB. You need to make sure your computer's shut down properly. Now, one thing to notice is even when you shut it down, there's still going to be a little bit of power coming from the power supply, and you want to make sure that's off as well. Even with the power supply off, you could see the lights on the motherboard still have juice. I assume there's capacitors in there or something of the sort. So as an extra precaution, always use a power bar. Then this way you know everything's off. And then we're ready to install the cards. So I actually had to boot the computer twice. The first time it installed the drivers but didn't recognize the cards. The second time I booted it, I went into the BIOS. It recognized all 4 cards. I just let it reboot, and now it shows all 4 of them. Now, I'm not going to overclock the cards right now. I'm just going to run them, and we're just going to see how well they run with the factory settings. All right, I have the 2 new cards here and here installed, and they're running. Now, in terms of clock speed for running Ethereum, or well, here I'm mining Ethereum Classic actually, I find the 1070 Ti is actually quicker than the 1080. The 1080 is getting about 21.5 mega hashes. The 1070 Ti is doing about 27, and the 1050s are doing about 12.5 mega hashes. Definitely, I'd say a 1070 Ti is your best choice for mining out of the two. I mean, given what it is right now, there's not a lot of options out there in terms of what you can buy, at least locally here. There's not a lot of stock. Everybody's sold out. They're hesitant to sell you anything. It's kind of one at a time. No store will hold anything for you. So it kind of is what it is at the moment. However, if you do have a choice, I would hold out and get a 1070 Ti. It's definitely more bang for the buck, and it is the better card in my opinion. Dave, why did opening the 1080 feel like opening a bottle of Dom? Well, let me show you. Very similar. However, the bottle of Dom is actually cheaper.